Hello viewers, and thank you so much for joining us once again. This is the Big Talk for the Citizen Voice Network, and with me Costa, and today we have got another special guest whom I may refer to as the environmental activist, Mr. Farai Maguwu, who has been in this space for quite a long time. And today we want to simply discuss, talk about the environmental degradation in our country at the instigation of the activities being initiated by the Chinese in the name of investment and so on. There have been outcry in various quarters of our country, our communities complaining, having clashes, some of these companies being taken to courts and so forth. So today we really want to unpack the impact of our environment vis-a-vis the mining activities, the constructions of industries and firms around the country. Mr. Maguwu, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you with the concerns of the environmental degradation that is facing our country. What is your overall assessment in as far as the environmental degradation is concerned and vis-a-vis mining activities that are sprouting around the country, the establishment of firms and industries around the country?
Thank you, Costa, for having me. I would start by saying, when we talk about mining in Zimbabwe, I think it is now a national crisis, where mining is now being carried out in a very irresponsible, a very aggressive manner, which is leaving communities around the country distressed. I can't tell you how many distress calls we receive every day from communities around the country. And when communities around the country are now reporting to a CSO environmental crimes, that tells you the system is broken. Ordinarily, they should be reporting to the government, where politicians, they swear on oath that they are going to hold office in a manner that respects the Constitution, in a manner that respects the rights of the people and protect the dignity of the Zimbabwean people. But generally, mining in Zimbabwe has become a very political activity. We have seen increased politicization and also militarization. You've seen also military officials have become involved in mining. There's also securitization. The entire security apparatus has been deployed to protect mining interests. Because of that combination of these three factors, politicization, militarization, and securitization of the mining sector, the voice of the citizens has been silenced. When the Chinese come into these communities, the forerunners of the Chinese is the state machinery, which comes to intimidate the people, take away their voice, harass anyone who is trying to resist what is coming into their community. And also to weaken and manipulate all the institutions that must protect the environment, like the traditional leaders, the rural district authorities, the councillors, some places the MPs, the senators, all of them. In Africa, they say you don't talk when you are eating. All of them, they receive something and they become silent. Those who are not bribed, they are threatened that you are now undermining the vision of the president. And when that happens to you, if you are a ruling party official, that marks a death sentence to your political career. If you're in the opposition as well, you may be recalled for standing up for the Constitution and the people that you represent. So mining is a disaster in Zimbabwe. And in the age of climate change, it's an added layer of an already unfolding crisis that has claimed lives, and mining is adding to that layer of disaster.
Let's just maybe be specific in terms of this assessment. Which maybe communities would you like to reflect on, whom you say that maybe they have suffered intimidation, they have been, their voices have been taken away, are being threatened and so forth? Would you like to share maybe some of these communities?
There are so many. There is a place called the Premier Estate outside Mtare, where the Chinese have been digging haphazardly. We petitioned Parliament. The petition disappeared in Parliament for several months, and finally they got it. We went to do oral presentations. Minister of Mines was invited, Emma was invited. They all confirmed that this company was operating beyond its lease, It had no paperwork regularizing its continued stay, operations there. Parliament said they are now going to Premier Estate to do on-site, fact-finding investigations. And state security agents were deployed to that community ahead of Parliament visit, harassed the local people. It was a disaster, People started calling us, who have been visited, who have been intimidated. We also have situations like in Bikita, Sinomine, the Chinese are mining there. The whole community is not happy. There is pollution of the Matesha Dam. And it sounds like now speaking out against the pollution that is happening there, it's undermining national interest. And the local activist, one of them was even arrested, and he spent days in police cells for daring to protest. They did not beat up anyone. They did not break anything. They did not violate any law. But protesting against the Chinese is now a criminal offense in Zimbabwe. Right now, there is the Magunje cement plant. Again, the political leadership of that area is trying very hard to suppress the voice of discontent from the local people. Some of the locals who try to protest right now as we speak, they are sitting on court cases. They have been arrested and harangued to the courts for a litany of charges they preferred against them. So when it comes to the environmental issues, government is taking away the citizens' voice. The politicians, the military, the security forces who are benefiting, who are getting freebies from the Chinese investments, are the ones who are smiling all the way to the bank, but at a great environmental and ecological cost.
But would you believe that this is a government policy, or we simply have maybe some rotten apples, individuals who could be selfish and greedy? I just want you to draw that distinction, be clear in terms of how the citizens are being threatened and suffering all this kind of stuff that you are mentioning.
I've been working on this sector since 2009. I can tell you that the government policy right from that time until now has never been to protect the people's interest and the environment. It is never. In the few cases where the government has come on board after a community has written letters of protest or what, the approach of the government is not to stop the illegal environmental challenges, activities there, but it is to calm the people and then help the Chinese to sort of conform, with the law. And they will continue exactly doing what the people are saying we don't want. Yeah. So I've not seen a place where government is really said, stop, our people don't want you here, or you are violating the law. There is Dinde in Matebeleland. We managed to petition Parliament. Parliament went to Matebeleland. They made recommendations. The Chinese were told in no uncertain terms that we don't want you here. But they're still there. They're still finding a way to continue with that project which the people have rejected. So the government has never stood with the people. They've never stood to protect the environment.
And in as far as all these mining activities, building of cement frames, among other things, what good are the Chinese doing in these communities? In terms of maybe in view of the corporate social responsibility, giving back to these communities?
No, I've not seen any corporate social responsibility project by the Chinese. They simply don't care. And right now they're even becoming more firm to say, if you want to ask, to know why we are here, ask your leadership. We are here because we were invited by your leadership, so we are not going anywhere. But when you talk about corporate social responsibility, you don't throw freebies at the people. First thing is to consult them. We are coming here to do ABC. Do you want the project? Yes or no? People give you an answer. If people say yes, it means they see their interest being advanced by that project. Most Zimbabwean communities, they want public goods like road infrastructure. They want to see investment in health. They want to see investment in education. They want to see alternative livelihoods being supported by an investor. That's not happening. Anyone who is saying the Chinese are doing well, they need to prove to me which road have they constructed as part of CSR, which hospital has they built. Even away from the mining areas, let's look at our urban centers, which I think government should also be seeing to it that whatever mining is happening in the country also contribute to national development plans. We are drinking sewage in this country. Our urban centers, roads have completely disappeared. How do we link these many projects around the country to the welfare and the well-being of the Zimbabwean people? That's the question which no politician can answer.
I was reading some praise somewhere, including even on social media, where particular government officials would say these developments being initiated by and run by Chinese are actually employing a lot of our young people. They are covering a lot of employment job opportunities, challenges that we were facing, and therefore they are coming in with all these projects. They are also creating employment for our young people.
It's slave employment. When you look at the quality of the jobs they are offering, the risk they are putting these young people into, if you read the mine accidents report by the Chamber of Mines in Zimbabwe, it will show a serious rise in the number of mine accidents and fatalities since around 2021, when we saw an upsurge in the arrival of the Chinese into the country. You look at the conditions of service, there is racism. The Chinese are very racist, They don't treat Zimbabwean people as equals to them. We have dealt with issues of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and because the government is seeing the Chinese as a savior, most of these cases are swept under the carpet. But there is rampant abuse of Zimbabweans in those workplaces. That's why you are seeing in some cases Zimbabweans are being filmed being violently attacked by the Chinese. That is a microcosm of what is really happening behind the scenes. So I'm not one of those people to celebrate the so-called employment opportunities they are giving. It's actually enslaving our people. They have got a very low opinion of Zimbabweans when you talk of the Chinese.
Mm-hmm. And what specific Zimbabwean, maybe in environmental protection policies, would you say are in existence, and maybe they're not just being followed, but they are there, or they're not being implemented, or something like that?
Well, when you talk about legislation, the most important piece of legislation we have is the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Section 73 is very clear. Every Zimbabwean have got a right to live in an environment that is not harmful to their health. And the government is also called upon by the Constitution to do everything within its power to ensure that the environment is protected. Not only for us, it becomes selfish, but future generations. We have got young people who are coming into the world, into this country. We must pass on an environment that is safe for them. Then you come to the Environmental Management Act, which was celebrated as one of the most effective, powerful, relevant pieces of legislation of 2007. And that law is also, at one time, it was the only law that could stop a mining project. Section 96 and 97, it talks about environmental management plans, that even local authorities must ensure that the environment is properly managed for the well-being of the local people. Section 97, it talks about the environmental impact assessment. So the law, in terms of the law, we have the right laws, but the implementation, the Chinese now, they do fraudulent environmental impact assessments where if they want to do a project at point A, they can consult villages which are about 40 kilometers away and not the people to be affected by their activities. Then you also have environmental consultants who are paid to go and conduct these environmental impact assessments. I think it's somewhere where the legislation needs to be reformed, because those consultants are conflicted people. They can't be trusted to give an independent assessment when they are already paid by one part of the equation to go and ensure that the project is accepted by the people. So they are doing everything in the book by hook or crook to ensure that they produce a document which is favorable to the one who paid them to go out there.
But I have a question, Ms. Maguwu.
Yes.
Is it the Chinese only, alone, who are doing all this mess around our environment with mining activities and the other initiatives that are detrimental to our environment? Should we pin everything on the Chinese?
We have to be very honest and be very bold about that. Zimbabwe has got other companies which are not Chinese. They behave differently. You've got Zimplats. It's a South African company, which is also listed, I think, in London. If you go to Zimplats, you can tell that he is a company that has got ESG model, which is in full operation. They respect the local people. They have built a town out of nothing, such that even if today we say there is no more platinum, Zimplats is gone, the town they've built will continue to exist and probably assume a new identity. But they have invested in durable infrastructure. We have another mine in Kadoma, which is mining gold. It employs over 1,000 people. I think it's owned by a white Zimbabwean. We have spoken to the employees. They are quite happy that they're being treated well.
Do you refer to Golden Valley Mine?
Exactly. That's the mine.
Okay.
The workers themselves, and this is not doing PR for them, I don't even know the management of that company, but I can tell from what the workers are telling us that they're well taken care of. Even in terms of the environment, the company is working in a very responsible manner. So we must also agree that more than 70% of the mining space in this country is now taken by the Chinese. And their model of operating is almost uniform. The way they behave around the country doesn't matter which province, which area they are operating in. So that's why the cry among Zimbabweans today is Chinese. Yeah.
And let's look at your work as CNRG. Apart from that petitioning Parliament, what else maybe have you done, or do you like to elaborate further in as far as your petitions are concerned, and other measures or efforts that you have been making as an institution, as an organization, in trying to fight this destruction of our environment?
One thing that we do as an organization is to do civic education among the communities affected by extractive industries, to where we give knowledge products, we educate communities about their rights, reminding them that they are entitled to the protection of the law in the state. And there are also various international instruments which guide, how these corporates ought to behave when they get into a community. So we do that around the country, and right now there is massive, information out there. People are speaking out. Partly it's because of the work that we are doing in the communities, where we are saying to them, this is wrong, this should not happen, here the law is being violated, and what they can also do to push back. So we have organized the communities around the country. In some places they've even protested against the destructive mining projects. Apart from that, we also link the local communities to other communities around the world. In Nigeria, we've sent some community members to Nigeria to go also and see the corporate behavior in places like the Niger Delta, So that's part of our work. We do research. Last year in September, we published a report on Chinese investments in Zimbabwe, where we worked very hard to go around the country and see and hear the views of the workers, the communities, about what the Chinese are doing. But we also convene high-level dialogues with the government, with the mining companies, and the communities, where we bring stakeholders together to discuss these issues. Above all, we as Zimbabweans, we are trying to locate, the national interest in the mining regime that we have today. What is in it for us as Zimbabweans? Where are we going as a country? What are we benefiting from this? Is it perhaps better to keep the minerals in the ground until we are ready to extract them in a sustainable way, in a way that enhance economic growth of the country, rather than what we are seeing right now, which I think one of the politicians said, it's now where each one is doing things for themselves, not for the nation, not for the communities, not for the cities around the country. So some of the things that CNRG is working on.
And what is the most worrying thing to happen, supposedly maybe the next 5 to 10 years, if this situation continues like what it is right now?
Yeah, it's quite a very, very worrisome situation. Like, you look at the Boterekwa range, going to Shurugwi, Shavani area, they are destroying, that picturesque mountain range, which used to be the pride of Midlands. They are destroying it. But not only that, it's a time bomb, it's a ticking time bomb in the age of climate change, where we are experiencing flash floods. Our minds are still fresh with Cyclone Idai in Chimanimani, where more than 400 people were killed. Some bodies were never recovered, which has left a permanent trauma on that community. Right now, they've started digging along Christmas Pass in Mutare.
Are they Chinese?
Yes, they're Chinese. They've started digging Christmas Pass. And beneath the trench they are digging, high in that mountain, near the radio signals, beneath you've got a school, a great school, Hillcrest College. You've got a residential area. There are people who have invested a lot of money building their houses, on the foot of that Christmas Pass range. All of those people are in danger of being swept away by flash floods, should that happen. In Penalonga, where rule of law has completely been suspended, politicians have taken over that area. It's now a very dangerous area. In some places, they are digging under the road such that the road can even collapse. So it's not many years from now where a bus is moving along a road and suddenly it disappears into underground tunnels. Already we are seeing that in Kwekwe, where in one place, a classroom collapsed because there's a lot of mining going on there. There's also the issue of blasting, where they are blasting irresponsibly, and I'm talking about the Chinese. And that blasting is shaking mountains. It's disrupting even the geology of some of these areas. There are fly rocks all over the place. And already we have dealt with a fatality some few years ago. I think that was Lafarge Cement, where a fly rock went and struck and killed a woman. So there is rampant digging and blasting everywhere. I call it environmental Armageddon. If nothing happens to stop this, one day we are going to have maybe a whole village swept away by flash flood, where these trenches and ponds they are building become weirs, and once they break through, the water break through, it can go and wash away humans and livestock.
But what do you think could be Chinese backing in terms of conducting themselves the way they do, with so much disregard of our laws and so much disregard of the concerns from the communities?
When you look at it, the real problem is not the Chinese. The Chinese are only doing what they are permitted by the leadership to do. If someone comes into your house, you tell them where to sit. You tell them, if need be, how to conduct themselves in your house. So I don't think the Chinese can just come into Zimbabwe and go to Mkumbura, go to Hurungwe, without the leadership allowing them to do what they're doing. One thing that we are also seeing in Zimbabwe is that our leaders, when the Chinese try to destroy their home area where they come from, they stand up and say, not here. So there's also the issue of tribalism, ethnicity, along these issues, where destruction is allowed to happen in some areas because the politicians of that area are gullible, they've been paid, or because they are overpowered by the politicians who are benefiting but do not come from that area, right? So there are a lot of nuances to how this whole thing is panning out. But overall, the government of Zimbabwe must take responsibility. Our leaders are silent shareholders in these Chinese projects. There is something in them. Someone gets 1 million, and that 1 million to them is like they've received mustard seed. They are angry on behalf of the Chinese. They want to silence everybody who wants to speak out against the Chinese because they're so happy that I received 1 million from these Chinese. So whenever you see politicians celebrating what the Chinese are doing in the Zimbabwean mining sector, know that you are listening to a compromised politician. Otherwise, any right-thinking Zimbabwean, I don't care what office they occupy, they must be worried and concerned with the manner the Chinese are destroying our environment. But more importantly, government is about people. If your people are being treated like fourth-class citizens in their own country, under your watch, then you are not fit for purpose. Government must uphold the dignity of their people. We are also, you have not asked that question, but we are also seeing the digging up of graves by the Chinese. They don't care.
Where is this happening?
Marange, they dug more than 2,100 graves. And even more worryingly, in some areas, they just dug up the graves together with the diamond ore, and they crushed the remains together with the diamond ore. And those remains are gone for good. And what's going to happen, what was now happening is that the traditional leaders will now just go and pick some soil from that area and go to a place where they were relocating the graves, and they create a kind of a mock grave where they put that soil and say, this is now your final resting place, you know, for the family to just say, this is the remembrance of our loved one. It's happening in this country.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's really terrible. It's shocking what government is allowed the Chinese to do in this country.
There's this recent case that is happening between Bride and School in Chegutu and another Chinese company that is building a cement frame there. If you have come across it, what is your comment?
It's unfortunately, it's not an isolated story. It shows how government is putting profits over people, which is a very unfortunate development where a school, the safety of children is being compromised because some people wants to make profits out of cement manufacturing. You would also wonder, how did the Environmental Management Agency issue an environmental impact assessment license to this company, which is so close to a school? If at all they issued it, because there are some cases where the Chinese just operate without an environmental impact assessment having been done. So if it was issued, one would wonder, how much money did they receive in order to allow such an abomination to happen? Did they even think about the well-being of the staff and students at that school? What does Section 73 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe say about, you know, the environment vis-a-vis the well-being of the people living in a particular area?
So let me just read the paragraph from President Masum Mnangagwa's spokesperson, Mr. George Charamba, who was actually commenting on this development. He says the Chinese cement project is at fledgling stage. The place is a hive of activity, quite comparable to the proverbial kicked over anthill. It summarizes the Chinese work and directional ethic, but also the rather amazingly quiet and modest approach to investments project. But there is this also a particular paragraph where he says, not many Zimbabweans, not even our media, knew about this project, which is in the wilderness until the dispute with the Bride and School authorities excavated it. Contrast that with some snake oil salesmen who fly in the strat about shouting never billions. Chinese capital is very coy and announces itself through spectacular deeds. Like I saw yesterday, the project is proceeding. The protestations from the White Run Bride and School notwithstanding, I am happy the leadership in Chegutu has taken a firm position for the project, casting into a bin the model environmental sentimentality of these remnant white farmers who dominate the board of Bride and School. So it appears that there are some people who are actually happy with this development.
That's typical of George Charamba. One can say he's doing his job, only that he's doing it so terribly, especially one who is speaking for and on behalf of the president. Such a serious environmental health issue, which is reducing to a racist rant. He's only seeing the leadership, or maybe the board of Bride and School, and ignoring the hundreds of learners whose health is being thrown under the bus because somebody wants to get some millions of dollars, you know, out of that project. It was the same. If you Google George Charamba speaking about Marange, he was pontificating about Marange. He went all over the place saying, this is a great thing, it's our time to, overcome sanctions, this and that. Today, the diamonds are now a little bit scarce. They could not build even a bridge in Marange. Not even a clinic was built. The Marange hospital today, they are now even using doors as a makeshift mattress for a place where former president said at least 13 billion was looted.
15.
15 billion, okay. So what he's saying here, I've talked already about compromised politicians. Know that you are reading an utterance from someone who is compromised, who does not care about the country, whose conscience has been seared with a hot iron, because the situation happening around that school in a responsible country, where a country that is under a government that is responsible, must warrant urgent attention, stopping that project altogether, investigating how did this company get an environmental impact assessment, and holding those people accountable. But when someone who is speaking on behalf of the president is stooping so low, then it can tell you about the attitude of government towards the environment and the impact of mining on the health and well-being of the Zimbabwean people, the people they claim to love and to serve.
I have read beyond this post where it is said that the firm does have a technology which proves anything from causing environmental damages or impacting people's health, because it is technologically proved.
That's greenwashing. That's greenwashing. They always do that. They always have narrative to say, well, we have technology that can reduce like carbon emissions, that can do this and that. That's all hogwash. There's nothing like that. And you realize that themselves, the Chinese, they will not do that in China, because the Chinese government value the lives of their citizens. Here they've been given freedom to do as they please. That's why even our people, the moment a mineral has been discovered, it's time to be displaced, because it reflects the government attitude towards mining. The people are not at the center of mining. That day when the government places the people at the center of mining, you see proper environmental impact assessment, consultations with the people, environmental management plans, even a master plan to say, as we extract this resource, how are we going to use the profits to plow back into the community so that we leave this community better than we found it in. There is a huge difference between an investment and organized crime. When you talk about an investment, it starts from consultation, each step of the way the people are involved. And when it comes to the end of the project, the area must be better than when the project started. But when you talk about environmental crimes, that's what we're seeing at Bryden School. The people are overlooked from the beginning. They are suppressed, their voices are suppressed. The politicians defend what must not be defended. Like in this case, Mr. George Charamba. So what we're seeing there is organized crime. And I think that's the model of the Chinese so-called investments in Zimbabwe. It must be couched in the language of organized crime, not investments.
I read that the council of the area and there's also another school which is close by. These ones didn't raise objections. That's what I'm reading. They didn't raise objections about this firm being constructed there.
It also depends with the leadership of that school. Maybe there may be some also a repression that may be taking place where the school may not want to cross the paths of politicians. That's one of the things that is also happening with mining in Zimbabwe, where many people are very careful what to say how to say it. We have received many calls from communities where they say, please come and help us, but don't mention my name. They fear. Government has created insecurity when it comes to mining. People becomes highly insecure because they are told that we'll take away the land that you are working on if you try to challenge what the government is doing, which is very unfortunate. You know, wind back to 1980 when independence came, we said now we've got black leaders in power. Our people are going to be treated with dignity, with respect. But today you find that you would wonder whether this is a new form of apartheid of some sort. I don't know.
I want to end this discussion, but you need to maybe to address to our viewers what's going to be the end game, and what kind of role do we expect, do citizens expect from CNRG in as far as fighting this environmental degradation happening in our country?
I have to be very frank about the way forward, what needs to be done. This issue is not going to be solved through workshops, through press conferences. We can do all that. Through research, I think we are in over-researched country. What is needed is action. The affected communities need to organize, but there's also need for Zimbabweans to speak to each other, because what is happening in Hurungwe is happening in Bikita, it's happening in Hwange, it's happening in Gwanda. There is really need for a national movement to resist destructive mining projects. We are not against mining, but if mining is undermining the welfare of the people, then the people have got a constitutional duty to resist mining. They are going to be arrested. Some people are going to be intimidated. Many things are going to happen, but that's why we call it a struggle. Zimbabweans need a coordinated struggle to resist this modern day colonization of one country by another. In this case, the colonization of Zimbabwe by China. We need to resist that, and Zimbabweans must organize. Nobody is going to come from somewhere to fight for them. Nobody is claiming to be a marshal who is going to stand up for them and fight the state or the Chinese on behalf of them. They need to organize. Whenever the Chinese come, they're taking away your land, they're digging up your ancestors, your loved ones. You need to organize at the local level. And then we want to see who is going to come out in the open from the government and say, you are not supposed to resist displacement. You are not supposed to resist the pollution of your environment, which is going to condemn you to early graves. The pollution of your rivers. And for your own information, we are likely going to have a conflict with Mozambique very soon. Because in the Chimanimani area, they are turning rivers into mud. And those rivers are flowing into Mozambique and polluting the dams in Mozambique. So we need to start talking about this. It's now a regional disaster, but that is starting from Zimbabwe. We need to stop that.
So if you were to be given audience with President Emmerson Mnangagwa, what you would you like to talk to him?
I'll be very frank with him that the direction which the country is taking in terms of mining is the wrong one. To have so much minerals in the country is a blessing from God. But how we use those minerals, it's subject to the decisions which we, the human beings, must make. And him being the head of state and government has got a responsibility to ensure that mining is done within the confines of the law. And he also needs to ensure that the people who voted him into office are respected, their dignity is protected by him. That's why he upheld the constitution that he is going to lead us according to the dictates of the constitution of Zimbabwe. So I need to remind him to read the constitution and see whether this Chinese model that we are seeing is undermining the constitution. But there's also one thing I would like to bring to his attention. There is a lot of name dropping of the president when these things are happening. Some of the Chinese are name dropping the president, but not only the Chinese. We also have people who are now calling themselves boys Zamdara, who are name dropping the president. And I don't believe that those people have a mandate from the president, but he needs to come out in the open and disassociate himself from what is happening. And then he needs an engagement with the Minister of Mines, the Minister of Environment, and probably remind them of their mandate, that they are not here to broker deals that undermine the welfare of the Zimbabwean people. But whatever they do must advance the national interest, which is environmental integrity and economic growth of Zimbabwe that is spurred by the mineral endowment of the country. That's what we want to see.
Mr. Maguwu, it was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much, Costa, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have heard our viewers from Mr. Maguwu unpacking the dangers that our environment is suffering from a lot of activities, apparently that are being engineered and initiated and run by Chinese around the country, from mining, building of farms, among other issues. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm signing out.